All right. Looks like we're live. All right. So, want to kind of tell you a story. This might help out with the way that we do things. So, uh, I had a patient come in, went through the whole executive physical where we need to start. And the person said, I have really good insurance. A buddy of mine's my doc. He's like, will you let me put it on my insurance, the blood labs on my insurance? And I was like, I don't care. And I was like, we've had lots of problems with it in the past, so I'm out of it. So I'll tell your doctor what labs we need, and if they're willing to run them, which most aren't, then that'd be fine. I don't care if you put it on insurance. I said, but here's the problem: you have to understand that our labs will be substantially more expensive if you try to go through insurance and they deny it. And they were like, "Oh, that's fine. I just want to check with him and see." So he takes him to his doc, and to this guy's doc's credit, he actually called me and he was like, "Hey, man, there's no way I'm going to get this approved." He goes, "What are you trying? What are you trying to ascertain?" Here's, I think, where the big philosophy difference is. The way that medical works and the way that wellness work are not the same. So the way insurance works and medical and insurance work, they've kind of molded each other. Um, to say that medical works because of the way insurance works is more accurate than to say that the way insurance works is because of medical. But the way it works is you go to a doctor and the doctor says, okay, I've listened to your symptoms. I've listened to what you're telling me the problems are. And I think that your problems all come from this one issue. And so I need to run these 3 or 4 labs to verify whether these problems are coming from this issue so that I can prescribe this drug as the solution to this whole problem. And so that's the way it works. So the reason insurance denies things is if you say, I have this diagnosis code and I want to run these labs to confirm or deny this diagnosis. If you go, and I want to run this thing, insurance goes, well, these three we understand because of the way that systems worked out, and insurance has their own medical team that makes decisions. And they go, okay, these three are approved because they have relevance to what your primary diagnosis was. This one doesn't. So for instance, if you say, hey, this person has a really bad sore throat, they feel kind of down, their mouth is all red and splotchy, I think they have strep throat. They will approve you to do a blood test for strep and a oral swab for strep. They will not approve testosterone and growth hormone levels and things like that because they're like, what does this have to do with strep throat? So we're not going to approve these labs while we do approve and pay for these labs. And so that's how a lot of these decisions are made. So when you give them a giant blood lab and they go, what exactly are you trying to prove or disprove? What are you trying to rule in or rule out? And you go, oh, we're just trying to figure out what they're healthy. They go, we're not going to approve any of this. The other side of that is that as a doc, when you put your name on something and say, I'd like these labs, the insurance thing calls you back and goes, why? And if you can't come up with a good reason, they flag your account and they say, audit this person and watch the labs they're sending through because they're sending frivolous labs through, which is one of the reasons that a lot of medical docs won't pull labs because they're afraid, well, if this lab test comes back low, I then have a legal and obligation to do something about it. And if they don't know anything about hormones, which 99% of them don't, even the endocrinologists, they have no idea. So if a lab comes back low or high and they don't know what to do about it, now they're legally liable. So that's the other reason why they won't pull labs. And a lot of the times when they try to figure out, well, what am I going to do? They go to what's called the standard of care. And so which is why when you go to 5 different doctors and they all give you the same diagnosis and the same drugs and the same things, is because when they look at their thing and they go, oh, you have a headache. I have the options of Tylenol and Advil to give you right now. And if neither of those work, then I send you to a specialist. If the doctor gives you something outside that list, he's outside the standard of care and he can get in tremendous amounts of trouble, lose his license, get fined, all sorts of things. So that's how the medical system works. So if you're just like, I want to know if I'm healthy, well, they can run a CBC and a CMP, which is what they usually do. And it's funny because people come in like, I got a lot of blood work done. There's like 40 things on this piece of paper. 1 or 2 might be relevant. So, that's the problem we get into because medicine is, what is your one problem? Pick one problem today. You can only have one. You can't have a system of issues. You can have one problem. And if you tell me what that one problem is, I'll try to find 1 or 2 labs to pull to confirm or deny that. and then I'll write you a drug based on the results of that. That's how the system works. So that's the thing I'm railing against all the time, why it doesn't work for wellness. But if you walk in and you go, doc, look at my throat, it's red and splotchy, it hurts to swallow, and I feel gunky, I'm pretty sure I have strep, and they swab you and they go, yep, you have strep, here's an antibiotic. That system works great. But if you don't have an easily diagnosable problem, if you have a system-wide failure, which is what 99% of people that I see have, the Western medicine model doesn't work at all. So that kind of brings us to the why we do what we do. And I tell everybody that we're running custom stuff, and then husband and wife will come in and we'll do the same thing, the same test, the same figure out. When we start, and he'll go, "How is this custom?" I have to find a place where we're starting. I have to find a starting point. And so what we try to do is we try to figure out, okay, we're going to do a broad actual systemal test. I'm going to look at the things that are really important to your life. We're going to make sure your heart's working. We're going to make sure your hormone system's working. We're going to make sure that your nutrient function is where it's supposed to be, and your allergy function is where it's going to be. The vast majority of people, if we get their parasites going, we get their liver cleaned up a little bit, we get their kidneys cleaned up a little bit, we get their gut ready to go, and we get their hormones rebalanced, and we touch their diet a little bit, they're going to be substantially better than they are. But the customization happens when we start working with the actual patient. And when people who've sat down with me, they've heard this before, but it's the ROI thing, right? So when people come in, I always tell them, it's not my job is to give you all of your options. Your job is to figure out what of the options works for you in your life today. And what ends up happening is you guys get to help really direct where this goes. Because here's the key thing that, I think everybody needs to know. It doesn't matter what I want you to do. It doesn't matter how much I want you to do something. It doesn't matter why I want you to do something. If you don't choose to do it, it's not going to get done. So you guys are limiting reagent every single time. So that's why that's one of the things that makes it custom is what are you willing to do? And a lot of times, and again, this is something you guys have heard before, when we figure out where you're starting, right? The starting points, we do all the heart checks, we do all the blood checks, we do the Eastern medicine checks, we do all the different checks, so we know where you are today. Then we have to figure out where you want to go. And so we get the point A and the point B, because without where you're starting and where you want to go, I have no direction. I don't know, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to do these things? Is it safe to do these things? So we get where you are today and where you want to go. Here's where the fun comes in. As people start to get better, they start to come in, they're willing to do different things. And so what I hear all the time is something to this effect, where they come in and they go, I don't want to be as big as you. I don't want to do the crazy things you're doing. I don't want to be as cut as you are. I don't want to get on stage. I just want to have the energy to feel like I can get through my day. That's all I want. If I have to go to the gym, I will, but I don't really want to. I don't care about how I look. I just feel miserable all the time. Cool. That's easy. That's a point B. And then as they start feeling better, they start coming back in. Maybe it's a month, maybe it's 6 weeks, and they come back and they go, hey, remember I told you I didn't want my arms to get any bigger? Well, let's just say theoretically, maybe I wanted to discuss that. What would that entail? Or, hey, I haven't been going to the gym, but I've got this energy and I think I've got some time. Maybe I would want to start talking about going to the gym. Well, how does that entail? So what ends up happening is that point B moves and it keeps moving. And the reason it keeps moving is because you get a return on your investment. So I always tell people, if you gave me $10 and I give you 20 back, and you gave me 50 and I give you 150 back, and you give me 1,000, I give you $10,000 back, you give me all your money. Because you're like, oh my gosh, the return on investment you're getting is amazing. I want to dig into this really hard. But you took 3, 4, 5 different small steps to see results. And then I'm willing to dedicate more time, more energy, more money, more whatever to this endeavor because I'm actually getting returns finally. Because a lot of people that I work with have worked with other people for weight loss, or they've worked with other people for health, or they worked with other people for whatever. And they try to do 1 or 2 of the 5 things required, and they didn't really get good results back. So since they didn't get those good results back, they're a little hesitant to dive in headlong, which is fine. This is where the customization happens. So for instance, we'll talk to people and I'll be like, your testosterone is low. We need to get that up. And people go, I don't really feel comfortable with testosterone. And I'm like, all right, we have that discussion. But again, that's your call. Or, hey, you should really be doing coffee enemas. And they're like, I'll do anything besides stick something in my butt. I'm not doing that. All right, cool. And so we do something else. And then as we go along, people come back and go, all right, I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm more comfortable. Let's talk about doing this testosterone. And then what happens with that one is 6, 8, 10 weeks later, they come back and they go, I am so mad at myself for not doing this earlier. And I'm like, I know. And a lot of times we go, but I felt like it was cheating. I felt like, like I've been told since I was, 8 years old that steroids are cheating and steroids are bad and steroids make you go crazy and steroids are horrible and terrible because you've been brainwashed into that. And I get it. You've been lied to a tremendous amount. And it's very, very difficult to walk away from those lies because you were told to trust these people. You did trust the government and the doctors. It's just that the information they gave you was slighted to make money for them, not to heal you, and you didn't know that. And the coffee enema thing is one of my favorites because it is literally the only thing I've ever seen where the fastest, the best, and the cheapest option is one thing. Usually you get to pick 2 of those, but you get all 3 with a coffee enema. It is the best thing for your liver. It is the cheapest way to affect your liver. It is the best way to affect your liver. However, you've got to take the time and you got to stick something in your butt. So that's I guess the downside hook to that. But those are some of those things. And so as people start to be like, okay, now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do that. The thing that, and people ask me all the time, they're like, well, do you sell supplements? Do you sell hormones? What do you sell? My goal, because I don't care where you get a lot of this stuff as long as it works. The goal is to sell you on the idea that your life can be better than it is today if you'll just do some things to manage it. You need the chemicals in, get the good chemicals in, get the bad chemicals out. You will feel better. Start exercising. You will feel better. Start working on your mental piece. Start working on your mindset. Start working on the way you view the world, and your life will start to get better. So that's the idea. That's what we're trying to do. That's why when people come in and they look at the executive physical and they go, oh, I already had the echocardiogram with my cardiologist, and I've already had a sleep study with my primary care. Great, bring me the information. Then we'll take it off the price of what we're doing. Like part of the price is just to pay for the labs. I just need the information. I don't care where we get it. We just need the information because it all paints a picture of where you are today. And once we can figure out where you are today, like this is a definitive point of where your health is today, and we can come up with your goals and your desires and whatever's going on with your family and your needs. We can figure out a point B, a direction to go to, even though the goal is to never actually get there. I want you guys to keep being like, well, what if I did a little bit more cardio? What if I did a little bit more exercise? What if I clean my diet up just a little bit more? Like I want that point B to continually move because that tells me that you're on a health journey. That means that you're satisfied with what's going on, but you want more. You want more health. You want more benefit. And so as that point B starts to move, that's where everything becomes customized. And it's funny the amount of people who told me, I don't want to get on stage, or I don't really care about losing weight, or I don't want my arms to get any bigger, or I don't really care that much about my butt, who, 2, 3, 4 months later come back in, they go, all right, so if I did want to sculpt my butt a little bit more, if I did want to work on my acne a little bit more, if I did want to work on this a little bit more, what does that look like? That's always my favorite part of the whole thing, because that's really where it starts to customize, right? Because it's like, look, we've figured out where your health was. We've recognized everything that's going to be safe. We fixed the things that were critically dangerous. Like if you have sleep apnea, getting a CPAP is critical to your long-term mental, psychological, like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia. It's really critical for that. Epilepsy. It's critical for hormone function. It's for energy, for all sorts of things. So once we've done the safe stuff and you've started to customize these things, you start taking the supplements that you want to better the life quality you want, and you start doing the things, and you start, when we really start growing it into that piece, that's where it gets fun for both you and me. That's where the real customization comes in. Like when I work with athletes and I'm like, when you ate that, how did you feel in the middle of practice? How did you feel at the end of practice? How did you feel the next morning? You're like, well, I was tired in the middle of practice. All right, we need to increase your fats, or we need to increase your carbohydrates, or we need to change the glycemic level of your carbohydrates. Whatever we need to do as we customize it to really dial you in, that's the fun part. And that's where the customization really starts to happen. So that's kind of where this happens. But the starting point's really important. So when we get all the labs and we get all the stuff in, we can move forward. The reason why insurance doesn't pay for this stuff is because they've set up a model that works best for them. And if you guys want, I can do an hour-long, super in the weeds lecture of why insurance doesn't pay for things. But I think the only people who would really care about that are other practitioners. So I'm not going to do that. but there's a lot of reasons why insurance is going to deny what you guys are asking for, especially if you're asking for wellness from a sick care model, right? So sick care does sick care, wellness does wellness. Asking these guys to understand, allow, and pay for these things, it's just not, you're not going to get it done. So that's kind of where that is. So I went way long today, but that's, sorry. So if you guys have questions or you guys are looking for a place to start with your health, give us a call, and just go to pillarsofwellness.com. We'll get that knocked out. But that's kind of where everything starts. So if you guys have any questions, give us a call. So thanks for your time.